Welcome aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. Out of the two people who are co-hosts for this show, either one of us is at home this week. The artwork behind me is Resorts World Las Vegas, and the artwork that Richard is staring at is the Hyatt Regency Grand Central. I'm sure that's perfect that's perfect. Love it. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I hate it so much. Why is it random mouse arrows scattered around? It makes me so uncomfortable, but here it is. Here it is, my home away from home.
We're glad you're uncomfortable, Mr. Kerr. We really are. There's a lot to cover, and I don't think we're going to get through all of it. We got my European trip, my million-miler flight. I got scammed, so I got a lot of stuff to update you on. There's the Spirit bankruptcy. We've got a listener question. I mean, the new United reservation linking stuff. There's a whole host of stuff, but as I sit here in Resorts World, I think I'd start with what I view as one of the more substantial updates, which is Resorts World now carries glass Topo Chicos.
Ooh, how much did that cost? Wait, let me guess.
I closed my eyes. I didn't look.
That was at least $8. And you're opening it with a Fiji water that was $12? Is that what's going on here?
There we go.
Is that a Fiji water?
It was a Fiji water, yeah.
If you're not watching this on YouTube, it's fantastic. I'm eating a cookie as it's trying to talk because it's 8:30 and I just walked in the door just like Ed did.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Between these snacks, I did use my $15 daily credit to get a few Gatorades downstairs so I could have some semblance of hydration here.
When you say a few, for $15 in New York City, I can't imagine you're getting more than two.
Two.
Right. Okay. I'd say few seems a bit aggressive for that number.
Yeah, they were $6 each. So after tax, I was right there at, $15. Two Gatorades.
Very nice. I like it. Well, let's do a little housekeeping, and then I also have a review, which I forgot to send you, but we're going to read it anyway. We're going to go live right here with the review with no preconceived filter for Mr. Curry. No idea what's coming, so good stuff. But he is at Kerr Points on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. The show is Miles to Go Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. You can email us, ed@pizzainmotion.com. And you can text us or leave us a voicemail at 571-293-6659. All right.
It occurs to me after many years.
Many years.
You can email us always at ed@pizzainmotion.com. I've never given out my email address, and we're not going to start today. You can email
Excellent.
Ed if you want to email us.
Another great podcasting moment brought to you by...
Yeah, I'm eating a cookie and telling people not to email me. That's the professional podcaster I am.
You are a man of the people. You really are. All right, so here's our review, and it goes back to something that we did last week, so I want to make sure we talk about it and just help frame this up for our listener. Author is Traveling as Much as Possible.
I like it.
It gives us a 3-star rating, which I don't love.
Don't like it.
More talk on actual travel, and please less talk on Disney. There are Disney podcasts we can listen to if we want Disney information. I don't mind Built Talk as an interesting business perspective. So by my count, we had one segment on Disney last week about Lightning Lanes, and then we had a little bit of it in our AMA episode. So I can certainly appreciate people that don't like the Disney comment. Maybe I should do a better job putting timestamps in so you can skip over them in the show. Only thing I'd ask, if people are leaving reviews and ratings, these are very impactful in how the show gets put up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that stuff. And so if it's not a 5-star rating, it sort of tanks our ability for people to see us. So if you don't love the Disney stuff, we'd love it if you'd shoot us an email or a text.
Email it.
or fast forward past that segment. But the 3-star rating definitely puts a dent. So if you haven't left a rating or a review, right now is a great time to leave us, hopefully, a 5-star review and a rating, because you find us so engaging and definitely not good to look at.
Okay, well, I'm definitely not going to talk about them opening up the single rider line at Ratatouille this morning. We won't talk about that.
Perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. Disney? No Disney.
Happened
no
this
Disney. It didn't really? Okay. All right, fine.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to let you pick because there's a bunch of stuff here. So you get to pick. Here's what we can start with. We've got my million-miler flight. We've got Spirit bankruptcy, and let's throw in...
You know exactly where we're going.
We're going with the scam?
We're going with the scam. Let's... I got
all right.
Horrible 5-hour-old coffee here. I want to make it
nice.
Enjoyable somewhat by listening to how Ed got scammed.
Yeah, and for the record, I haven't told you literally anything about this yet. So you're going to learn as you go, and you're going to see how much of an idiot I am. Travel expert Ed Pizza. I was doing I was doing your favorite activity this weekend, Mr. Kerr. I was camping. 2 nights of camping, Boy Scout camping in a
We
tent.
were both camping. That's right.
In a sleeping bag, and it was about as miserable for me as you would expect it. It didn't
But since
really
you only get
much.
4 hours of sleep a night anyways, this is probably no different.
It was about the same. I just colder, yeah. So we were going to we were touring the Naval Academy, as you know. You saw I sent you a picture of that, and then we were going to a Navy football game afterwards. Navy was playing Tulane. Went to the game with my son, his Boy Scout troop, the whole bit, and there's whatever 30 of us, and we're watching the game. And again, I'm tired, haven't eaten much, chewing on a lukewarm Chick-fil-A sandwich while watching all the cadets come out in the field. Very cool experience. And shortly after the game starts, I get a text from my wife's best friend, and she's like, "Hey, are you available for me to call? It's kind of urgent." I'm like, "Sure, yeah." So I call her. She's not in a good place. I can tell she's upset. I always help her book all her award travel for her. Turns out she was supposed to be leaving on a trip with her, spoiler alert, her then boyfriend on a trip to Rome that day. And he decided to tell her that day that he couldn't make it because of work, even though he'd promised her that he could make it. She promptly dumped him. So Michael, if you're out there, bad choice on your part. Instead of getting an all expenses paid trip to Rome, you got to go to work on Wednesday. So we all make choices in life, but maybe that wasn't the best one for you. So she had paid for the whole thing, the tours, the flights over, the whole bit. Anyway, she's obviously upset. She's just broken up with her longtime boyfriend, the whole bit. And she's like, "Look, like I'm going to lose all my money for these tours. I still want to go, but like I just, like this just happened. I don't want to go on my own. Can you help me get a last minute ticket for my friend? She's gonna come with me. It's whatever, 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. Her flight leaves at 8 o'clock. It's like, oh, okay, I sure I could do this." So we're in the stadium. Stadium has horrible Wi-Fi, just abysmal Wi-Fi. I'm trying to search for stuff, and I can't make headway in it. So finally, I call Air Canada, and so I'm on the phone with Aeroplan. I've got her on the phone with me, conferenced in. We're going through a bunch of permutations. We've been on the phone for 30, 45 minutes, and the guy is, he's fairly knowledgeable. And I imagine you've called Aeroplan at some point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they're the best in customer service. I've had my fair share of bad agents there. I've had good ones as well. He was having a little bit of trouble getting things worked out in the system, but seemed to like know all the city pairs and all that stuff, and was definitely trying to help us, and was just struggling here or there. And as we got down to the end of the call, and we finally thought we had everything worked out, he told me that we had to cancel Michael's ticket and to redeposit the miles, and then reissue the ticket in her friend's name. And of course, as there's a fee for that, right?
Is there nowadays?
Yeah, Aeroplan has a fee to redeposit.
Okay, all right.
It's like $100 or something like that. $100 Canadian, I think. So he says $349, and I go, huh, that's weird. And then we go a couple minutes later, and he's having some trouble with the redeposit, and he says something else, and like this light bulb goes off in my head, and I've left out a key detail. What's that?
What number have you called?
Bingo. Because I couldn't navigate the Aeroplan app or website because the Wi-Fi was so bad, I made the critical mistake. I Googled the phone number for Aeroplan customer service.
Yeah. I have been acutely aware of this lately, even as much as when I had to call Virgin a couple weeks ago to change the date on my ticket, and that Google result came up. I didn't trust it because I've heard of this.
Yeah.
I've heard of this.
This guy, and I've heard of the scam, and when I've talked to people about avoiding it, like don't Google the numbers. This guy was good. Like he knew city pairs, he had flight numbers, he knew how many miles it was for all the seats. Like he was well trained. And if he hadn't made a couple of small errors in the phone conversation, it's a loud stadium, the planes are flying overhead, the cadets are screaming, I can barely hear. Like I'm nowhere near as focused as I would normally be. I don't like it. We were very close to like her, so she did get dinged for, they charged her card the $349. She gave them her credit card. And then as soon as I realized it, I said to her, I go, "Hey, like, by the way," because I didn't want to tell her like, "Hey, we're on the phone with the scammer." I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna book this through United instead. I know it's going to cost us a little bit more. The guy even knew it was more miles on United in like a heartbeat. He's like, but just give me your United information and I can book it for you. And at this point, like, I fully know I'm in scam territory. Like when I was suspecting it, I now go full into like, yeah, obviously there's no way an Aeroplan rep is going to book a flight using United miles. I'm clearly getting scammed.
I just Googled it here. Do you remember what you Googled?
I think I Googled either Air Canada customer service or Aeroplan customer service. And the number that we dialed was, because I'm sure it's still up there, because they buy the search results sponsored link.
Yep.
It would have been 844-402-1109.
I don't see that anywhere here in the search results. I see their actual number, which I recognize, the 3615373. But I definitely know, there's not even any sponsored results on this. So maybe it's been since shut down.
So when I do Air Canada customer service, it comes up correctly. And I was doing it from my phone. Let me try Aeroplan customer service and see if that's what I did.
How interesting. This is a great reminder. And I've continued to hear about this. I think it's gotten out of control on Twitter as well, where anytime you write anything about an airline, accounts that look just like the actual Twitter handle with the blue check mark, even though that's not the verified thing anymore, respond to people asking for information. I see people all the time respond back to these fake Twitter handles.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're just stealing your information.
Well, and that's what, like, thank God we didn't give much information to this person. And I'm looking at it now, and it looks like it's now gone from sponsored listings from my phone. I was just checking to see if it might be different there, or I'm just not Googling exactly the right.
It could even be if you misspelled something accidentally while you're Googling that it just.
Oh, no, here it is. Aeroplan customer service phone number. You can see it.
Contact us.
Yeah.
usflightbookings.online. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't even read that part. I just dialed the number, hit the button, and away I went. And I'm
sure they make a lot of money every single day because they get all the non-experts and just.
Yeah, and like I said, this guy was smooth. Like he had so much information. There's no question. Like if I'm not on the call and she just calls, like you would.
Yep.
Like I said, I barely caught it.
$349. They got greedy. If they'd said $199, even I would have probably been like, "Oh, that's really sucks," and like probably especially if I was in a football stadium, which I think Navy got blown out in that game, so that sucks.
No, it was only 35-0.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it was awful loud for a team losing by 35. So I was still having a lot of trouble hearing. So God bless them for team spirit, man. They were very rowdy. But yeah, so we called the Aeroplan back afterwards. I will say, it was almost an hour on hold waiting to get an Aeroplan agent. But I explained to them, and kudos to Aeroplan on this. Explained to them the situation. I said, wife's best friend, she's on the line with us. Boyfriend ditched her for this trip, so he's now the ex-boyfriend, and the agent waived the cancellation fee.
Nice.
Yeah.
Don't use that illegitimately, people listening to this.
Right.
On the other hand, Michael, all expenses paid trip to Rome, man, not even with your miles. And something tells me Michael was going to something besides work.
7 or an 8-day tour. Well, I'll tell you offline what he was doing for work. It might seem legitimate, and you could probably Google him. I'm not going to say it online because I will absolutely be accused of things that we don't really want to be accused of on this show. We'll just talk more about Topo Chico.
There you go.
But it's that easy to get scammed, and I think it's just so. What did I do right after that? I literally went and added the customer service phone numbers for all of the major airlines that weren't in my phone, and they're all now programmed into my contact guide. Because obviously I have United, American, but I don't have Delta, didn't have Hilton, didn't have Aeroplan, so now they're all in my phone. And if I'm in that situation again, hopefully I won't. I'll reduce the chances of being scammed. But it's that easy, man. And he offered cash tickets up for very expensive prices a couple times when he couldn't find award flights. Like he was crafty. And I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't cancel the card right after we got off the phone. It wouldn't be surprising to me if they'd whacked their card another couple times. Because the thing of it is, if you think about it, most people don't travel same day for sure. And, if you think, like, it could be months before your ticket actually happens and you realize what happened. And then it's like, well, now you're fighting for a chargeback that was 3 or 4 months ago. And maybe you can still get it cleared because it's travel, but it's a nuisance. And if we don't get this right, man, her friend shows up to the airport that night without a ticket.
Yeah. So, and out $349.
Yeah. So it was ugly, and in the process of helping her, I made things a little bit worse for a few minutes there. So I had to apologize to her for making it a little bit messy along the way.
Can you report these sponsored links? There's got to be a reporting feature, right?
I would imagine somewhere, and I do need to report that one if there is. I would imagine there's a way to report it, because that is clearly a scam. Because it even says call Aeroplan. I mean, look, I should have seen it. I should have picked up on it when I was looking at it. I'm smart enough to have picked up on that. So I just didn't. I was moving too quickly, and I was in very bad circumstances to have spent more time figuring it out. So I was rushing, and I made the mistake, and thankfully it didn't cost us anything.
Happens to the best of us, but a good story for everybody listening.
Yeah. All right, where do we go next, Mr. Kerr? Are you driving this? You tell me where we go next. So we've got Spirit bankruptcy.
I think, the Spirit bankruptcy, pretty interesting, not unexpected, but that broke. We're recording this here on Monday, November 18th, just 2 days before you listen to this, thanks to my schedule and my
thanks to the very complicated life that you and I lead right now.
Yeah, I think so. Really interesting. Yeah, so they came out this morning and said that we filed for bankruptcy. However, operations will continue as normal for now while they figure out the restructuring of everything. There were, a result of really no recovery from COVID, a failed merger attempt with JetBlue, which, can we just talk for a second about that was denied because it was bad for U.S. consumers? And we all went, okay, well, they're going to go bankrupt and we're going to be in the exact same spot anyways with Spirit not existing. Yeah. So well done, U.S. government, for putting us in the exact same situation, except now a lot of people may be out of jobs. And
Spirit didn't. I mean, they really didn't want to merge with JetBlue. I mean, it's a byproduct of they had to do it for their shareholders. They demanded a large breakup fee, but none of the Spirit management actually wanted this because they feared this exact result, that they get denied by the government and then they'd have to declare bankruptcy, and here we are.
So what else did they tell us today? Some pretty interesting nuggets. And what do you think about? Run us through what they said. And what you think about, following the the Us Too movement here in the airlines.
Yeah, so quickly before the Us Too movement, I'll say they have done a little bit of work before filing bankruptcy, and I don't have all the details in front of me, but from memory, they worked out a little bit more time on the line of credit that's tied to their merchant processing. They've got some airplane lease stuff that they've got to figure out. That's a potential issue. But they do have some financing in place to try to restructure. And, look, I don't have a good sense of whether or not they can restructure and pull out just yet. I've been trying to crunch the numbers on it. I'm skeptical, but I think some of it depends on whether somebody like, a Frontier might step in bankruptcy, because if they are able to shed some contracts or things like that, it could make it more appealing. I mean, Frontier just had a look at them and said no. But some of that was based on the contractual obligations that Spirit has. And if they're able to shed some of those obligations in bankruptcy, then, it might be more appealing. You obviously remember when U.S. Airways swooped in while American was in bankruptcy and, plucked them and ended up, quote unquote, merging with them, many years ago, in what was likely something that wouldn't have happened if American didn't have to declare bankruptcy.
Some other nuggets that I find on there, such as install in-seat power, which
I just don't get that.
Seems also like it's going to kill your fuel burn when you add up, all the extra weight of that kind of thing on board. Maybe not. Maybe it's not too bad with just power compared to flight entertainment.
They're definitely going to have time to pull the planes out of service for the routes they're pulling down to install the power.
Yeah, so just looking at a few of these slides, redeploy 20 to 30 aircraft, 10 to 15% of the fleet from cities with the lowest revenue performance. Relocate aircraft to top value seeker cities in different regions to gain relevance, targeting 50% seat share. Achieve stronger pricing power in the new cities with market relevance. This sounds like, and you can see the name of the consulting firms at the bottom right here. They probably paid way too much money to these consulting firms, and to make up some nice slides like this to convince, I guess, some bankers or some potential loan givers, the kind of deal. I'm pretty sure all these people are smart enough to see through this. So, what I would like to see is a nice merger with Frontier. I think, losing all of these routes and planes and another low-cost carrier in the U.S. is just not good for any of the consumers. Like I've always said, big fan of low-cost carriers. They provide people who otherwise would not be able to travel with the ability to travel. And those of us with families or, looking to save money, the ability to save money. And it's just not great for the American consumer. So I hope they can figure some of this out. If Frontier wants to swoop in and probably get them for a much lower price now compared to whatever JetBlue was trying to overpay. I imagine the people at Frontier are taking a hard look at this. Just not great, man. You never want to see a company like this because you think about all the people behind an airline. It's a lot of logistics that, you never come in contact with beyond the flight crew or the airport staff that have a lot riding on this. So I wish them the best, and I certainly hope that we don't lose Spirit Airlines.
Yeah, it would be a bummer to lose them for sure. One of the things I thought about, and I could be wrong because we don't have JetBlue at Dulles, and so I don't fly them a ton. You flew them, a little bit here and there. When I think about free snacks, free Wi-Fi, I think that's trying to copy a little bit of the page out of JetBlue's book in terms of what they offer to customers. The thing of it is that I think what Spirit has always done best, and you and I talked about this a handful of probably almost months ago now, not weeks, when Spirit made some changes to how they were going to sell fare packages, and they went away from just offering the big front seat, and now it's part of a bundle, and the Go bundles. I just the thing that I really struggle with is that all of these things, like you and I talked about with Southwest, make Spirit much more like the legacy carriers. And Spirit can't compete with the other guys in terms of the network that they have. They're not competing at the same levels from a reliability standpoint or an on-time performance standpoint. So and then at that point, all they can do is offer a cheaper flight from point A to point B on the same route that United or Delta or somebody is flying. I did see that they were going to add some flights to Atlanta, sort of as Southwest pulls down. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure. If you're just Joe or Jane Public, why are you choosing Spirit over United if the product is all the same? You've just got more risk.
Exactly the same thing we talked about with Southwest, a little bit to the point of JetBlue. If it's all the same, then everybody's just going to go on schedule, and you don't have the schedule to compete. So,
right,
what's the winning path here? In a Spirit's case, you don't have the reputation or the schedule to win. So,
right. They did say they're going to try to improve their loyalty program, but I think, again, that's a tough get when you're reducing the number of flights that you fly on a daily or weekly basis between two destinations. It's hard to be loyal.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look. I do have to go to Orlando a couple more times over the next few months.
Yeah,
I'm hesitant to book any further out than a couple months, which also doesn't help their case. But you just don't want to be stuck holding the bag if they're no longer going to be operating. If they can't get all the financials in place, there will be a time where the cash runs out to pay their bills, and that's when airlines disappear overnight. They just see big old yellow Airbuses out there waiting to be sold, or leasers to repossess them. And yeah, sad day.
That would be sad. As much as I'm not a huge fan of flying Spirit in the back of the bus, they are fun planes to look at.
And again, it's a big front seat, man. I
what a great
strongly disagree with them going away from a la carte on that.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah, and this is going to get into a little bit of the weeds on the nerdy side of how they actually succeed going forward. You were talking about the slides and stuff about, them spinning up new cities and stuff like that. It's something that's, that every time this comes up, I always have the same thought. And I think somebody put it in writing today or yesterday or whatever. It might have been Gary of You from the Wing, or maybe it was Ben over 1 Mile at a Time. But typically when you see airlines in positions like this and they say they're going to, readjust where they're going to put planes to find better routes. If there were places to put those planes to earn more money, wouldn't you have already had those planes on those routes?
It goes to the rest of this where, even under the guest care in this slide here, it says, under elevate the experience for guest care, improve contact center service, customer-friendly IROP handling, and under differentiate premium and elite, it says the concierge contact channels for elite and co-brand card holders. Shouldn't you have done that anyways? Neither of those are, I know perhaps it was just because it's expensive, but a lot of this you can solve through technology, not just hiring more bodies to answer phones. And it's kind of the other things I'm saying here. Just like you said, there's a way to more. It doesn't take a bankruptcy filing to do some of this stuff.
It doesn't. But look, you've been doing the built thing long enough to say, think about it this way. That Spirit has been, it made legendary their lack of, full scale customer service. You pay to print your boarding pass if you don't check in online, things like that. They don't want you to interact with people. So I would actually say, from where I sit, man, spinning up concierge level service for a certain percentage of people, that's certainly not going to be in their wheelhouse. Now, I know you talked about with Frontier that they had rolled out some of that for you as a top tier elite Frontier Diamond. Man, I mean, it's tough to build that sort of product when you've really emphasized your entire business model on self-service.
But if you're going to be like everybody else, then now you've got to offer it for your co-brand card holders and your elite status members. If you're going to lean in, but again, man, like, trust me, we're going to talk about it more, over the coming months. But right now, I know how hard it is to build like a high touch customer service business.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff is like, I just don't. They're also doing the blocked middle seat thing. Like,
I don't hate that. Like, that's not hard. That's not hard.
I don't hate that. My problem with Frontier in that is now you've cut away your extra legroom for your elites, and you're charging $60 for a 50-minute flight. Like, when the plane ticket was only $29. So, like,
yeah.
And it was going empty on the flights that I flew on because people are like, what? I'm not paying that. So,
right.
I don't know the path forward is here.
Yeah, for some people that makes sense. Like, those are nice to have, ways to pick up a few bucks from an ancillary standpoint. That's not going to make or break.
Also, for couples on the edge of divorce, you pay $60 to put a seat between Michael and your wife's best friend. Michael should have paid $60.
Michael's not making the plane. You know where Michael is? Did you see the video of the luggage cart getting sucked into the engine on the runway?
I did. Yeah.
That's where Michael is.
Okay.
Michael was in the luggage cart. That's where my wife's best friend. Yeah.
No.
No, if I would imagine at this point, if Michael resurfaces to try and come to Rome, he's going to be in a wood chipper instead. So he made
that would, but that's a heck of a move there, buddy. If you show up in Rome after all that,
yeah, I agree. All right, well, we're almost out of time. I guess we'll save my European trip for next time. Should I tell you a little bit about?
You should do your million miler. We should do your million miler story because I read the first paragraph of your text and I was like, I thought that was a real story. I was like, oh, wow. And then for 0.5 milliseconds, I was super impressed. And then I read I'm like, I'll let you tell the story. But you had me there. I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. This is great.
Yeah. Now I'm going to hope that I have a picture of it so that I can have Jeremiah put it in the show notes. If not, I'm going to have to beg my wife to go find it at home and take a picture of it. Yeah. So the deal was, I got on so my million mile flight was going to be from Dulles to London on the Newark to London on the daytime flight. That was going to put me over 1,000,000 miles on United. For folks that don't know, 1,000,000 miles on United means you get locked into lifetime gold status, which gives you Star Alliance gold, which is actually pretty valuable. Lounge access overseas, benefits on Star Alliance carriers, free seat assignments, stuff like that. So definitely valuable. And then you can grant your status to a companion. So, for example, my wife was my companion, or if I decided that I really liked Richard enough to make him my companion, he could share my status, whatever status level I had, whether that was global services or 1K or whatever. Okay, so my 1,000,000 miler flight, I'd heard that they were doing some stuff for recognition. I got on board the flight. I'd used plus points to upgrade from premium economy, and shortly before takeoff, the purser came over with the captain. I was impressed. And they both came over to thank me. They gave me a card, signature with all the crew on it. And they gave me a challenge coin, which is a new thing that they're giving out, 1,000,000 miler challenge coin. What I found interesting when the purser told me the story later, that apparently with these challenge coins now, the airline only allows pilots to pick up a max of 2 at any one point from an inventory control standpoint because they don't want them to get taken. I don't know.
Want to become TikTok viral?
Yeah. So the purser actually emailed the pilot to say, hey, we have a 1,000,000 miler on the flight tomorrow morning. Can you swing by and pick up a coin? He's like, I don't know if the office will be open that early, but I'll grab one. So I thought it was really great that she actually looked at that and made the effort. She goes, if you clear from other airports, you get a certificate, like from London, which was her home base. She goes back and forth between London and Dulles a lot. She says, you get a box of chocolates and you get a certificate and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Okay, whatever. So anyway, had a nice flight with them. She brought me a glass of champagne, got to talk to her about her history, which, we'll cover in a future episode. And then when I got back, I flew home from Lisbon. And this was the part I shared with you via text. Periodically, as you know, every once in a while, I'll get off of a plane and United has a global services agent standing there, or a premium services agent, and they'll throw me in a Jaguar and they'll drive me to my next flight. Well, in this case, there was an agent standing there when I got off. That was my last flight. I was home. And I'm just like, oh, cool. They're gonna take me over to customs so I don't have to ride the bus. Like, this is awesome. And her English wasn't great, but she said something about driving over, and she's got a folder in her hands. And so she hands me the folder, and she sort of like pulls me off to the side, and people are streaming to get on the bus, and the bus leaves. No big deal. And like, so I got the certificate, which I didn't look at the moment. And then she's like, okay, well, you can go. And I'm like, oh, you're not giving me a ride? And she's like, no, I'm just here to give you the certificate. We can't give you a ride to customs. They don't allow us to do that. And it's like, okay, I've flown Lufthansa into this airport, and Lufthansa on Lufthansa First, if you redeem an award, they'll drive you to customs and get you around the line. So like, I know it can be done, but they just, it wasn't in the cards that day. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll just catch the next bus. And I get on the bus, and I'll have Michelle take a picture so we can have the screen. The certificate, again, like, kudos to United and the crew on the plane. I don't want to diminish it. It was an incredible experience. It was very nice of them to come say hello to me and challenge coin and the card and all that. They got to rethink the certificate, man. It's like
the staple special.
It was in a very generic folder, and the piece of paper that they handed me was not personalized in any way. It didn't even have my name on it, and they must have been running out of ink in the printer because the United logo at the bottom was faded and pixelated. It hadn't printed fully on the piece of paper, and it was like, all right, like this was a little anticlimactic of an ending to have the certificate and trudge my way through the slog of people to take the bus over to customs.
And now you get to wait in the back of the line since you didn't make the first bus.
This is very true. The only silver lining was I did have a check bag because I picked up some things for Michelle, some clothing that she likes in Europe, and then I picked up some stuff for my son, and the check bag took 57 minutes. So the fact that I didn't catch the first bus turned out did not matter because I still waited a solid 30 minutes after I cleared customs for my check bag. Wah, wah, wah.
Well, I would say expectations kind of met there. I'm impressed that there's challenge coins and that they emailed you and got you that. That's impressive. I do not think I will ever make a million miler on any airline because, as everybody knows who listens to this, I hop around. And as I just landed on my Delta. Yeah. As I just landed from my Delta flight here to New York, I just logged in my account. I am at 313,908 lifetime miles flown with Delta, and that is probably the most. So a third of the way there here at my ripe young age.
Yeah, you're ripe, all right. That's for sure.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of, what's the best thing, I guess, that you've heard of? I've heard the stories of, I think most people I've seen from other airlines that make a million miler, nothing happens on the flight. Maybe once you get to like 2, 3, 5 million miles, I think something happens. But I'm sure with Delta, like nothing happens except I think you get a link where you get to pick a gift from a few different things.
Yeah, and I think it's like I said, I applaud United for putting these programs in place and trying to make it more special. I got a message in the app that morning saying, hey, good luck on your million miler flight today. So like they've done some good things around technology. It's certainly not the days like, when my dad was racking up million milers and they would recognize him in the air and then they would send him, Tiffany crystal and luggage and all that stuff. But that was a different era. And I think it's, to your point, it's really hard to fly a million miles on an airline. And, there's no way I'm ever going to fly a million on another airline at this point or United. It's, that'd be, well, God, I hope not. That would be 10 more years of 100,000 miles a year and paid miles a year. Ugh.
Yeesh.
I don't have that in me, man.
Yeah. It's been, I'm sure I've flown that many miles, but, until I started working here at Bilt, the vast majority of my tickets were award tickets for the first 10 years that I was in this space. Like, rarely did I, buy a plane ticket. So I would love to see the actual number of flight miles. And unfortunately, I don't have a tracker that goes back more than 3 years of all the flights I've taken since I started doing this. But, I've got to be close to 1 million actual miles flown.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree. And like you're starting to see a little bit of award flights counting here and there, not necessarily for lifetime status, but for status. So maybe that changes over time as, credit cards continue to be such a big part of this ecosystem. But real quick, before we run out of time, I just want to touch on a quick question that was in the Slack community. We didn't talk about it earlier in the show, but if you want to join us, spend a few bucks a month to help support the show. We've got a Slack community with a bunch of different channels where we answer questions. Also try to do weekly happy hours Didn't get one in last week while I was in Europe. Hopefully I'll try and get one in this week. But Nate had a question about LAX that I wanted to weigh in on. He was talking about arriving at LAX for an upcoming flight, and he wasn't sure. He was going to somebody's house near Ontario Airport, and he wasn't sure if it was better to Uber or to rent a car from LAX. And I just wanted to say, at a high level, I don't know, have you ever rented a car from LAX?
I have, yes, from the Hertz location there. Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to assume I know what your answer is about renting a car at LAX.
I mean, driving in LA is just tough in general, but the shuttle action there in the Horseshoe is just brutal for anything, really.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, just brutal.
And the lot for returning the car isn't necessarily very close to where you have to fold into the pattern to get to the airport. It's just getting to the shuttle, it's a mess. And I would say of all the ways to get in and out of LAX, I would probably rank rental cars as my least favorite.
Well, it's a great thing that they have just such a robust public transportation system there, where you never have. Oh, wait a minute, this is the United States. Just kidding.
You mean you don't take the train to LAX when you go?
No, I don't. I don't do. I avoid LAX at all costs. I'm only going to connect there. If I'm flying, I'm going to look for Ontario or Burbank or something else if I'm actually going to the LA area.
Yeah. Well, I promised you that we would only go 30 minutes so you could get a little rest tonight. And I know we both got a lot of work to do before we have to get up tomorrow and chew through our work week. Yeah. We've got, what do we have coming up next week? May have a special guest next week. We've also got a Black Friday deal that's going to be exclusive for Miles to Go listeners and viewers, so stay tuned for that. If you're watching on YouTube, would love it if you'd leave us a review there and subscribe to the show. That's super helpful. Mr. Kerr, you're on the road this week. I hope you're home next week for the holiday.
No, but travel on the road for fun. Going to see the family in Charleston, South Carolina for Thanksgiving.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah, on the road. Actually 2 weeks in a row, we'll be traveling for fun to see the family after this. And then after that, it is a couple back-to-back weeks for work. And then, man, just like that, it'll be Christmas.
Just like that, it'll be Christmas. And then we'll start talking about, man, this is our last flight of the year. Like that actually means something from a significant standpoint.
It's the last flight of the year, and I have the first 8 already scheduled for next year.
Yeah, except I don't believe that because you don't book tickets in advance.
That's true. I need to see where I am. I am doing the Delta Status Challenge right now we talked about.
Yep.
And I was looking to see my progress because there's no way I just wrote down and tracked this. But it doesn't tell you anywhere, of course, online, what your progress is towards this status challenge. So I'll have to see how I'm coming on that because I think I have another couple months here to knock out these MQDs to keep my platinum status.
Godspeed, my friend. I wish only the best for you so you can keep your extra leg room.
I keep my middle of the back of the bus seat for all the flights. That's amazing, man. I booked these flights to and from New York a lot earlier than I usually would for this trip. And I got on both flights booking a week out. There was no Comfort Plus left, which you get for free if you're platinum on any flight to New York City for the entire day. And on my 2 flights, I got the last 2 aisle seats on each flight, booking a week in advance. So last minute flights to New York are just not going to be able to be a thing, or you will be in the back of the bus in the middle seat, even with platinum status, which is just unreal.
And there's 6 or 7 flights a day?
Oh man, it's every hour. Okay.
So it's even more than that. So probably 10. And I know some of them are extended narrow bodies, right?
They're only A321s. So yeah, deep flights.
That's a lot of seats.
It's a lot of seats.
A lot of seats.
And they're all full, man. At least to LaGuardia. You'll have a little bit more luck at JFK, but I'm not going way out to JFK. So, yeah, really interesting. I guess the new normal for the next at least few months until I switch to Southwest or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you're running out of airlines to switch to. And by the way, some of those are going bankrupt, so I don't know. Once you get down to Breeze and the Velo, I think it's time to reconsider your choices.
Commute on Sun Country from Atlanta to New York via Minneapolis.
I love it. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your time at the Hyatt with those pictures of the mouse on the wall. Love it. Safe flight home. I'm sure we'll be talking throughout the week, getting ready to record our Black Friday episode and scheduling some happy hours. But until we upload again, we've got miles to go. Richard is drinking cookies. That's where we start. That's where it starts this week.